This is Tom Schiliro. Today's edition of Your Island is a best-of presentation of last Wednesday's show. I'll be back tomorrow live from 12 to 3. Happy Labor Day from all of us at LA News Radio.
Showtime.
It's time for that radio show everyone loves.
Do not attempt to change the station. Just listen, and we'll keep broadcasting.
It's time to begin the show.
1039 LI News Radio presents Your Island, the very best in talk radio, with your host, Tom Schiliro.
And once again, welcome back as we're moving right along. Heading to the 3 o'clock hour, folks. Just so much more to talk about. We spoke to Rich Chris today and Wendy Rodriguez running for the state senate. As we try to do is get as many candidates as possible, because this is such an important election year with so much ramifications of what could be taking place, having to do with the state and the criminal justice system. But, you know, a lot of times we don't talk too much, and we should be speaking a little bit more about the education system, our schools. And some school districts on Long Island have already opened. They jumped ahead of the Labor Day time period. So I want to talk a bit about that. And our resident contributor having to do with schools and education is Lisa Navarro. Lisa is the CEO and founder of Child Behavior Consulting. Lisa has a vast and good number of years in our educational system and so on. And great time to bring her on, because some districts have opened already. Some will be opening next week. Yes, right after Labor Day. We'll see a lot of that going on and see what people can expect. Now, again, there is a movement out there when we open our schools, is to keep them safe. Uvalde is very much on the minds of the folks out there. And I can tell you from being close with our police departments, they spend a lot of time in working with the school districts and working to make sure that there is safety and security and so on to keep our students safe here on Long Island. That is paramount. So this will be a good part of our topic for the next hour, is our schools, keeping them safe, and what parents can expect. A far-reaching discussion on all of this. The number is 631-451-1039 is our number to call in, particularly if you have children, grandchildren in the schools, questions of what's there. This is a different type of year. Let me get welcome Lisa to the show. Lisa Navarro, how are you, my friend?
Doing fantastic. Thank you.
Is there now this new post-COVID era? Can we finally take a deep breath? We no longer have to wear the mask. We no longer have to keep the 6-foot distancing. Are we finally out of the woods now, this school year, 22-23 school year?
The educators that I have been speaking to and working with, they are so excited to begin this school year. They are really beginning to feel like we are being bit lifted. They're much more hopeful that we are not going to incur the same challenges that we have in the past. And they're looking forward to a really, really great, productive, and fun school year.
So there's obviously things that have been making this different, whether it's curriculum, whether it's the safety aspect to it, whether it's the post-COVID era. It has become an issue in this year's gubernatorial campaign: to mask, not to mask, to vaccinate, not to vaccinate. I know New York City school system was turned upside down with teachers that philosophically disagreed with the vaccinations and so on. Again, the whole idea is there any remnants of that are still kicking around? Again, our number here is 631-451-1039. Questions about the school year and what parents can expect. Lisa?
Yes, well, it seems as though children don't need to wear a mask right now on the bus, completely not mandatory. It's discretionary. Same thing with the classroom and school settings. It is up to the family or the child of whether or not they want to wear a mask. And with that said, same thing with the vaccines and the quarantining. Things are changing now, and they are just really looking forward to spending more time teaching. But there are some things I'd like to talk about that maybe as parents and educators, we can really keep an eye on the beginning of the school year when it comes to teaching our kids.
There's a lot of hope. I can remember my days as a teacher, starting off the new school year. You were thinking, wow, I now have to climb the mountain because there's so much stuff that you have to do.
Yes.
You know, the last day of school is like you made it to the top. You made it to the mountain, you know. But now we got to start all over again. And I know a lot of teachers are feeling that way. This is a big week, folks. Everybody knows a teacher. We got so many teachers on Long Island. You have family members and so on. Everybody knows a teacher, and they know what they're feeling right now. And there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of stress to a certain extent. A lot of preparation. Again, 631-451-1039 is our number. Start us off on that. I mean, what is it like?
Well, it depends on whether or not you're in the same building, the same grade. There's a lot of buildings that change their teachers and their assignments. So you could go from being a classroom teacher to a consultant, or from teaching one grade to another. And really, essentially, that just means you are working in a completely different job. So it depends on if you are in the same current assignment. And let's say that you are. The amount of preparation that goes in is still tremendous. You have to set up the classroom, and it's not just taking things out of the closets that you stuffed in and balanced on the walls, hoping they wouldn't fall over the summer so they can clean the floors. But it really comes down to organizing, making sure that you can anticipate and prepare your classroom to make sure you have a positive climate with the materials that you need when you need them readily available, as well as you want to be able to have your communication logs ready and anything that you think is going to be systematically ready for you to start the new school year, first day off running.
What about parents, grandparents? And I always include grandparents in that because so many of the grandparents today that I hear, particularly here on Long Island, it's almost like the new normal, are caring for their grandchildren because mom and dad has to work. So they are responsible to get them up, to get them off to school or whatever it's going to take. So we'll include parents and grandparents in that. What should they be thinking right now? What should they be preparing for? What should they be thinking about?
I just actually recorded a TikTok, and it was really about exactly that, Tom. Let's talk to our kids before they even start school because we don't know how they're feeling. I'll give you an example. So I was talking to one boy recently, and he's in elementary school. And I said, okay, well, school's starting in a couple of days. How do you feel? And he got real quiet on me. And he goes, well, 50-50 smart, not smart. I'm like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to know everything. So kids are really anxious themselves of what the expectations are for them. So we need to have that conversation so we can be supportive of them.
Again, talking about curriculum. How difficult is that to really get a handle on that, and to whether the parents and grandparents are understanding whether it's right for the individual child. We've heard so much about parents going to school boards and talking about curriculum and trying to get involved in that. How much does that play into preparation for the school year by the school community? And I mean teachers, I mean parents, I mean administrators, I mean the children, all of that, whether it's the elementary, middle level, and high school level, and so on. So much has been said about what's being taught in the schools and the level of difficulty and so on.
I have a couple perspectives on that. And essentially, a lot goes into the curriculum development, how we are going to deliver that curriculum to the students, and also professional development that the district provides for their educators. So hopefully districts are encouraging their educators, no matter what they teach, not just classroom educators, right? Anyone who works with children on any kind of academic level. I really hope that the message is social emotional learning first. Give them the foundation of learning because there is learning loss, but not only that, they've had a real big hit, a lot of kids, of their self-esteem and not really knowing what they're capable of. Even just enduring the full school day is tough for them. It's a long day now. And still getting into the whole groove of things. A lot of kids have been able to adjust, but some still are adjusting. So we really need to keep our expectations appropriate for the developmental level of the students.
If you're just joining us, I'm with Lisa Navarra, founder of Child Behavior Consulting, talking about the schools, the school district, the mere fact that we're within the system right now. Some districts on Long Island have opened. The rest seem to will be opening up after Labor Day. And it's the beginning of a new school year, but it's also the beginning of a new era, I would like to say. It's the post-COVID era. And what it's going to be like to maybe, just maybe, get back to the normalcy of what we're seeing in our schools and what's being taught in the schools and so on. You know, some people might say that that we've suffered over the last few years with the COVID era, and will we ever get will we ever get that back? And I think that's a big part of it. Is it ever going to get back to the fact that we're back to the pre-COVID, but is the suffering that took place, whether it's the kids being somewhat traumatized? I've heard this all the time, but so the masks and the 6-foot distancing. When you tell a second or a third grader that there's this virus out there and that you got to be doing all this stuff and you're only going to go to school 2 days a week, there's a certain trauma that's involved in this. Now that we're hopefully back to a normal situation, have we suffered irreparable damage, should I say, as a result of what took place the last few years?
That's such a great question. I think it's up to us whether or not we provide the supports to the children as they need it. So let me give you an example. I was talking to one new teacher that I have just met, but she's not a new teacher herself. But she's, in my opinion, she understands it. You see, she said even last year, trying to close some of that gap was really providing the foundation for the students. Because the curriculum is supposed to scaffold, right? You teach one skill and then you build upon that skill and that skill. But if you say, wow, I'm really far behind here, you're far behind, it's not going to look good for me. How are you going to do good on these state tests? It's going to be a reflection of me. Now you're starting to get worried and anxious, and you might start teaching or looking as a parent, well, how come they're only doing this? And how come this is 4th grade? Why aren't we doing certain other skills? My other kids did it this time. And now you have expectations and you're introducing curriculum that the children are not ready for. But here's the magic of it. So I think that we can close that gap appropriately and in such a wonderful way if we give the students the foundational skills that they are going to feel comfortable in a timely fashion on their speed. And if we have to, we can differentiate within our own classrooms. And then it's going to pick up. Mid-year, it's going to pick up. And the kids are going to say, oh, I got it now. I understand. I'm in the groove. And now you can go even faster with the curriculum and make up for some of that lost time. Because now the kids are feeling better about themselves and they feel more capable.
Talking about the upcoming Long Island school districts reopening and try to make some sense out of the post-COVID era, trying to put this all together, whether it's curriculum, whether it's teaching methods, skills, abilities, and all of that. And I've got the greatest person in the world to talk about that is Lisa Navarra of Child Behavior Consulting. Lisa's one of our regular contributors on the program. I know many parents are concerned about this. Again, when I go about the phone calls that we get on this show, particularly when it's relating to curriculum, parents want to get more involved today than I've ever seen. Even back when I can remember when I was teaching, it's almost like a laissez-faire approach to what's being taught in the schools. It's not like that today. And in terms of curriculum development and syllabus and so on, where is the final say on that? Is it a school board or is it for folks like you, people involved as professional educators?
I would hope that there would be a lot of collaboration between the two, including then the parents as well. I think that's the most healthy way, the most productive way, is when everybody really understands where kids are and where they need to be successful. And I'm not talking about successful like all great grades and all A's, hundreds, college bound. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that each child is reaching their potential and feeling really proud about that.
Yeah, and I think that's important too. The level that we're at right now a lot of times I think about the level of preparation of what we've done. We look at our criminal justice system, our educational system. It's been under attack. And I don't necessarily mean for political purposes, but it's been under attack when one thinks about what happens if, particularly when it came down to the COVID situation and what that has caused and so on. Where is the preparation? In other words, can teachers recover? We're asking about the students, and we were talking a little bit about the students, but then it comes down to the teachers being able to shift gears. I've spoken to so many teachers over the last few years, and they've had a tough time in terms of whether it's online training, some there, or I remember you being on the show during the height of the COVID issue, and you have a program where you're in school one day and you're not school. I mean, I was trying to follow this thing, and it was like my head was spinning. How do you even teach that way and so on? And now try to get back into the classroom on a full-time basis. We know the trauma that the kids may have, but the teachers, how do they then make a cohesive approach to teaching, because learning is all about imparting knowledge. And I know that's a simplistic viewpoint, but at the same time, you have to start some way. Lisa?
I think last year a lot of teachers really had the opportunity to get back into the groove of things. So I think this year what we really need to make sure is that we're all feeling like we're on the same page. And I would also suggest to parents and caregivers and grandparents who are involved a lot to talk with the teacher and say, my child is coming home and they look really worried and feel like this is too hard for them. Is there some way to slow down? Or say, I see that my child really understands this. Can we challenge them more? I think he's ready. So I think really having a dialogue of where the child is, it will really help to determine the pathway of education within the school year.
Does New York State offer any help? I can remember the days when you had the New York State Council of the Social Studies. When I was a social studies teacher, that was something that you would look towards for guidance in terms of the curriculum and so on. And I only asked this for my own curiosity because I remember that's what we had many years ago. What exists today in terms of curriculum from the state? A lot of times when we look at the governor's race in Virginia, that was a big issue that defeated the Democrat in that state because the people were going more with the Republican candidate who believed more in local control and local syllabus and local issues that were going to be taught, that they didn't want a central control coming from Albany. I know this might be a difficult question, but where does a lot of this come from?
Well, a lot of it comes from the state standards.
Okay.
Right? And then how the school district wants that to be rolled out. So then they have different programs, they have different expectations. There are some schools and districts that are very, very heavy within the curriculum. There are others that have a mix between that and social emotional learning. So that way there is that support. And that's the message of the climate and being positive, and not so much of data, but we still need it, but there's a nice balance. So it comes from the state, then it comes from the district in how they want to roll out their curriculum and the climate.
A big part of it. Now, when we get back from break, we've got a few minutes left. When we do get back from break, I do want to take up that whole issue about safety and security in the schools, because there's a topic that you and I had first started to talk about was the analysis of a school shooter, so to speak. Now, a lot of people say, well, you're getting off topic. We're not getting off topic because we're going to be able to relate that, particularly to what you do in your organization, Child Behavior Consulting, because I've been learning more and more about the mental psyche of a person that commits horrific acts upon children, whether it's the shooting at Uvalde or what took place at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas School, which I've been doing a lot of research into that just in the last month or month and a half, and how important that is. And when one goes to think about this, you wonder. What does the state get involved in that? What kind of proposals? I know the New York State Teachers Union, New York State United Teachers, very much involved in trying to safeguard our students and safeguard the teachers that are in the school in order to when it comes right down to the ability to keep people safe in terms of stopping this horrific incidences that occurred. There was an incident just about 3 days ago where an individual wanted to advertise that he was going to be a school shooter. And what happened was he ended up deciding that he couldn't wait for the school to get open, so he went into a supermarket and he was immediately taken down, although I think 2 people lost their lives in that incident. So we're starting to see that sort of a drawback. But when we look at the safety and how to keep kids safe, how relevant of that is when we talk about the ability to do that? How relevant is it?
Well, it's top priority. We always need to make sure that our kids are safe, and we don't even know exactly what kind of trauma they incurred, not just because of COVID, but because of the violence that's been going on lately. So really having a strong safety plan, being able to implement that quickly and efficiently within the schools, and really looking at those warning signs like you and I have discussed in prior shows, of really knowing where your children, your students are within themselves and socially amongst each other. So it's very relevant to keep safety as a big part of your everyday teaching and and just living within children.
When we get back from break, I want to take that up. I think it's important, particularly relating to your work with child behavior, because I got some key questions on observing one of those shooters pretty much up close in his recent trial, and what some of the experts, people that would be colleagues of yours that were testified at the trial, and how it relates to so much, not just the mental health issues, but the issues relating to children, relating to young adolescents, and also to relating to the school environment. I think it puts it all into somewhat perspective. We're going to take a short break. I'm Tom Schiliro. I'm with Lisa Navarro, Child Behavior Consulting, heading up to the 3 o'clock hour. Take a short break. We'll be right back.